Good evening everyone, and welcome to another session of Ask Zak with myself Zak, and of course my trusted colleague Albert.
Thank you Zak, and welcome to our Zak.
Now tonight we're going to look at basic care of our large animals. Now when we talk about large animals, we're talking about our cattle, sheep, goats, horses, and even our games. So it's a very broad spectrum that we're going to talk about this evening. But first and foremost, guys, before we look at nutrition, because at the end of the day, a healthy animal is a productive animal. Now, a lot of people think if you give the best feed and everything like that, all their problems are going to be solved. But it doesn't start with the feed. It starts with your management. And when I talk about management, we're looking at your parasite control. And we look at your internal and your external parasites. Now, if you've got a challenge of both of these, they're of course going to have a challenge on your production. So very, very important, guys. Look at your area and also talk to your state vet or your local vet so they know what the challenges are in your area and how you can prevent it. Or you can of course speak to a technical advisor from ALZU and we can also advise you. But first of all, get your deworming program in place and your dipping program in place. Now there's various ways that you can do it with your dipping. We've got two main methods. There is a third method, but our two main methods is the spray on, that you mix your dip and in either a rack spray, a backpack sprayer, or in a firefighter, and then you spray the whole animal. But just make sure you spray the whole animal everywhere, underneath, in the belly, in the groin areas, underneath the tail, to make sure you make proper contact. And a general rule of thumb is on a big animal, a big cow or a big horse, you're going to use at least 5 liters of mixture. If you're going to use less, you're not going to get the coverage that you need. With your pour on, it's of course, as the name says, you pour it on along the back, and it spreads using the oils of the skin across the whole animal, and in that way it gives you coverage. So that are your two main ways that most of the farmers use. With your deworming, you've got also 2 ways of deworming them. That's either oral dosing, that you literally just take a needle, not a needle, but a syringe or an applicator, and you apply the deworming into the mouth, let them ingest it. Or the other way is like with our Ivomax or Ecomectins, that you basically just inject them underneath the skin. Now with all these things, especially with your dosing and your pour-on dipping, guys, be very, very sure how much the animal weighs. You don't want to overdose or underdose. Because if you underdose, you're not going to have the effect on the animal and you're going to start breeding resistance. If you overdose, you can, whichever product you use, you can either damage the animal on the outside, burn their skin, or overdosing can damage the intestines. And of course, the worms that survive there, they are going to breed, and of course, very important, they're going to be resistant against your active ingredient. You don't want to be that. So that is quite a mouthful when it comes now to the management or when it comes to our parasites. But now, Albert, very important, we've handled the parasites, we've handled everything there. What can we do when we're looking at our feed?
Just before we get over to our feed, Zak, I just want to add on to some of that healthcare management you touched on. Just remember, if you have sheep, we would like to use the Farmacha system. So why we're using this is we want to make sure that if the dosing active ingredient that we gave, is it working? Is it having a response on animals? With cattle, it's a bit harder. We can't use the Farmacha over there, but we can see if our cattle, if you can see the coat is getting a bit shinier, it's not getting that rough. The cattle are gaining condition, and we'll get to the supplementary licks with that now. But with your small animals, with your sheep and goats, let's say, Zak, we dose today, let's say a product like ProDose Orange, and 2 weeks later we're going to do a follow-up. Before we dose again, we're just going to put those animals in the crush. We're going to use the Farmacha system. We're going to just look for the membrane under the eye to see if the animal is anemic. So on that first day, let's say we dosed our sheep yesterday, Zak, and it's 2 weeks later, we're going to dose them again. Before we dose them, we're going to see if they had a response. So if we dose those animals and you can see that the blood is making a comeback, it's the eye membrane is more red, less white, it's more red, meaning there's more blood supply, it's not getting sucked out of the animal by the parasites, we know that the dosing or the active ingredient that we are using has worked. If it did not work, do your follow-up, give it another chance and reassess after 2 weeks. If it didn't work, if you don't have a response after the 2 weeks, the membranes are staying white, change your active ingredient. Go over to another active ingredient and use that, and you will assess again, see if there is a response. So please, like Zak said earlier, with your ingredients that you are using, make sure with every cycle, every year that you are dosing, that you are using a different active ingredient.
Just to add on to that, guys, now there's a lot of, how can I say, generic products. Some people think that if they move from an Intervet product to an Afrivet product, they're changing active ingredients. Now that's not the case. So get to know your active ingredients. Your deworming has a nice shortcut. If you look at the right top hand of the product, you'll see a number 1 or a number 2, sometimes a 1 plus a 2. Then we know it's a combination of 2 family groups of active ingredients. So if you bought, let's say, Produce Orange, and you see there's a number 1 on, we know you're not going to use your Irradiworm Plus, because there's also going to be a number 1 and number 2 on, and then you didn't alternate your active ingredient. So on your deworming, that's a shortcut way to see that you are actually changing your active ingredient. And of course on your dips, not that simple, but all of the products list their active ingredient. So make sure if you're using a flumetrine, you don't want to use a cypermethrin or a deltamethrin. You would rather change over to amitraz or organophosphate, depending on what's available. So if you use a flumetrine, please do not use deltamethrin or anything like that. That's the same family group. It's not going to have the effect that you desire.
Now, if those names could be confusing, there's a mouthful of names, amitraz and all those different compounds that Zak is calling, don't worry. At your Alzu depot, your technical advisor can help you, and also the sales assistant there. So spend time in the depot, go and pick up a product, read the active compound or ingredient, and if you are wondering, just ask and we will be there to help you all the way. So to get to the supplementary feeding, of course, Zak, we are going to focus on our lick blocks. Now, this time of the year, you've got 2 options. If you are a cattle or any ruminant farmer, we can look at our mineral block. This is a wonderful phosphate lick that contains all of your micro and macro elements, your trace elements that you want in there, your cobalt, your zinc, your selenium, that is absolutely crucial in reproduction, Zak. So that comprises out of anything. Now you as the customer have that choice. You can buy that mineral block. It's a beautiful blue block. It's a molasses-based block that you can put out to your sheep or your cattle that they can start using. Sometimes what we see out in the field is that a client will come back and say, Albert, I bought these blocks, these animals chowed them, and I don't want to spend money on that. The problem is the animals are deprived of those vitamins and minerals. So keep putting out the blocks, it will stabilize, the intake will stabilize on it, and it will get less. Just keep on putting it out, and nothing wrong with buying a clip salt, a rock salt, a salt lick. Of course, always available at your Alzu depot to put it out with your blocks just to break the intake on your animals. And then of course your mineral lick is also available in a 40 kilogram mash form, which is 40 kilograms of a phosphate lick. This is a P12 that we put salt in with it that gives you a P6. So you've got that phosphate lick in there to supplement every need of your animal. Now of course we are still on the mineral lick, but Zak, we are approaching autumn. We are approaching the transition of seasons, and that's when we need a transition lick. Now at Alzu, your transition lick is of course your production meal, a wonderful product that contains bypass protein, rumen degradable protein, and your bypass protein. Also contains a bit of energy, there's like a millis daarin, a bit of millis in there for some energy, and of course your cotton oil cake, that's where your bypass proteins come from. So your production meal can be used, of course, for your small stock, for your sheep and goats as a flush feed as well, but those are at the Zak videos when we focus on reproduction and on small ruminants. But it's a lick that can be given to any ruminant, so your cattle, your sheep and your goats can benefit from the production meal. You can put it out from about March, end of March to about the end of April towards May, and then you will go over to our winter lick. Yeah. Now of course our winter lick is a urea based product, or it's irium in, so please make sure that it does not make contact with any water. That's why we put it out here in the Highveld on the winter. That urea of course will help with the breakdown of the fibers inside the rumen and the microbial protein that process that happens inside the rumen. So we do benefit with that dry brown grass in the winter by adding a product like your winter lick. And then of course, Zak, for horsey people like yourself, we've got the wonderful horse block that smells like apple. It's a beautiful green block that also comprises out of all your macro and micro elements for your horses. This is a product that you can put out throughout the year, especially in the winter if you've got good grazing, and in the summer if you've got good grazing. Put it out. It has no urea in, of course, because we're giving it to our horses. And then, of course, for the game block, we've also got a wonderful product, our game block, that's got aloe vera in, which is a natural external and internal parasite remedy that can help for those pesky parasites. So make sure that you get to your Alzu depot, go look at these beautiful blocks. They display very nicely in our depots, beautiful colors, but they will also add the benefit to your animals.
Just one thing to add there, of course, with the sheep block, we also add ammonium chloride. Now, the ammonium chloride plays a role in breaking down kidney stones in your male animals when it comes down to your rams and your goat and your sheep. So it's a very good product to put out for them. Usually with the blocks, we also advise the guys, we've got very nice rubber containers or hard plastic containers. Rather put the block inside. It makes it less harder for the animals to break the block when they step on it. It keeps it all nice together. But as you said, Albert, when you go over to winter and you're looking at our winter leak or anything like that, it's high in urea, drill some holes in the block so that the water can run off and not stay inside so that your animals don't ingest it. So that is quite a mouthful that we had tonight.
That's a very good tip, guys. Make sure to benefit from that. Not only buy your block, buy a medium stack bin at your Alzu depot. Put your block inside of the bin, and it will make it a bit harder for the animals to get there. You'll still get in the required amounts that they should get in, but the block will just last a bit longer. That's a great tip, Zach.
So guys, if there is any more information that you look for, just comment here on the video. We will get back to you. Otherwise, we've got all 20 Alzu one-stop shops with fully trained staff that's there ready to help you with all the products, the deworming, the dip, the licks, everything like that that you might need is under one roof, your A to Z one-stop shop. And of course, Albert, you and the team, you guys are busy with information days as usual.
That's 100% correct, Zach. So this week, if you are in the Lowveld, I'll be traveling in the wonderful Lowveld in the Hoedspruit area. So please, all farmers in that area are more than welcome to come to Alzu Hoedspruit at the Blyde River Center. We're going to do a broiler layer day over there. But if you have any questions, I will be there throughout the day. You are more than welcome to come in and ask questions, come in for a chat, and we'll be able to assist you. Remember, the benefit of being an Alzu customer is that our technical services are for free, and we are there to help you all the way. So there's no reason to struggle out there. Alzu is there to help all the way.
So thank you guys. Have a good evening and stay tuned for next Tuesday. So from my side, have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching Zach, and have a great evening.